Welcome to Restore 2023. Today's reading is from Ecclesiastes chapters 5 and 6. Now it's clear from the opening verses of chapter 5 that this writer has a deep faith in God, and he warns us not to be careless toward God or casual in our approach to him, because he is truly the living God, and he recognises irreverence for what it is. And yet all around him, the author sees the tragedy of a fallen world which is groaning and subjected to futility, as the Apostle Paul expresses it. In fact, it's worth noting that when Paul refers to creation being subjected to futility, the word he uses is the one that is used 38 times in the Greek version of Ecclesiastes to translate the word vanity. And this fallenness of the world is evidenced by the futile pursuit of men for objectives under the sun without remembering their Creator, who is over it all. These objectives, especially the pursuit of wealth as an end in itself, are pointless. Wealth, for instance, can all be lost again in business failures, or squandered by friends who suddenly appear at the sight of riches. And sometimes, after all the effort that's gone into accruing it, circumstances can intervene, and it can't be enjoyed after all. Besides, the love of money causes all kinds of injustice, and it turns men into greedy workaholics who worry so much about getting wealthier they can't even sleep at night. And in the end, well, it all seems to be a striving after the wind, doesn't it? Because when men die, they can't take anything with them. Now, what do you think? Could Jesus have had this passage in mind when he taught us not to lay up for ourselves treasures on earth, but lay up for ourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust don't destroy, where thieves don't break in and steal? Anyway, back to Ecclesiastes. The writer does see some good in the midst of all this. Yeah, the days God has given us are few, and our labour can be toilsome. But with a trust in God, a man can eat and drink and consequently find satisfaction in his labour. And whether or not Jesus had this passage in mind, Paul certainly did when he wrote to Timothy. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, from verse 6, Paul writes of godliness with contentment. And his following remarks provide a brief commentary on the passage we've been reading together. One final note. While I was reading these chapters, I found myself having to stop and ask the question, is the writer speaking of me here? For instance, have I made vows to God and forgotten them, failed to keep them? And I guess that's how we should read Ecclesiastes. It's a picture of a fallen world, and we ourselves are a part of a fallen humanity. The teacher has probably described us somewhere in Ecclesiastes.